you are now live streaming. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is not a disturbance you're feeling right now in the force. It is the Acolyte After Show right here on JLJ Media. Once again, we've reassembled the team to break down the latest episode, episode 4 of the Acolyte, streaming on Disney Plus on Tuesdays. There at your local time zone. As always, your less than desired lead right now, Frank Moran, but joined by the always handsome, always insightful Star Wars guru, John Dunphy.
Hello, how's it going, Frank? Good to see you, as always.
Oh, my goodness. A sight for the eyes and for the ears, you are, John Dunphy. Uh, Kim won't be able to join us this week, but she will be back next week. And our leader, our esteemed Jedi Master, James Lott Jr., will be like a Force ghost, and will appear at some point during this I was gonna say telecast during the stream to share his thoughts on the first 3 episodes of the Acolyte. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about episode 4, Day, which comes in as the shortest episode of the season thus far, and maybe one of the shortest Star Wars episodes, live action episodes that we've seen so far on Disney Plus. Chet, before we get into the nitty gritty, overall, what did you think?
I really liked it. I had a lot of fun watching the episode, honestly. I just can't get over how fast it feels like this show is going. Like the fact that we've already had a reunion between Osha and May, the fact that there's these 4 Jedi that May has been trying to kill, and now 3 out of 4 are already gone. You know what I mean? Like, and we're only halfway through the season. Like, it just feels like we are really pushing through, and it makes me excited to see what could happen with having a whole half of a season left and already getting what we've gotten. Um, I just, getting really suspicious about certain people too. We'll get into all of it when we talk about the episode. But overall, I'll tell you that I really enjoyed it. So
Speaking of, because yes, we are flying through stuff. Do you think that is a good thing or a bad thing? Because I felt like in this episode, like in our effort to kind of just keep speeding along, there were like character choices kind of made in this that I was like, whoa, really? That seems very abrupt compared to how I've been seeing you so far portrayed in this series. How are you feeling?
yeah, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. Like there have definitely been times where I have felt like there are moments in this that needed to breathe a little more that were just very abrupt. Like interactions with people were just cutting away from a scene way faster than you had to, or something like things like that. Um, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm a little torn. I don't know if I could say if it's a good or a bad thing with how fast these things are moving. But I don't know. There's a lot that's been set up. That's what I think is interesting too. And so the fact that we have half of it, I feel like there's a lot of series that we watch where we'll get 6 episodes in, and it's like, how are we going to tie up all these things that we've been seeing in 2 more episodes? And it's like they've set up a lot in these first 4, and it feels like they still have time to sort of get back to everything and tie everything up by the end of the season, hopefully. So maybe by the time we get to the end of the season, the abruptness, the pace right now will feel more earned, I guess, because we'll see how things kind of turn out. But I definitely hear you though.
Yeah, I guess you're bringing up a good point where it's like, yeah, with 6 episodes and two down and 2 episodes left, yeah, with so much story left to go. And this, yes, definitely feels the same halfway through with 4 episodes left. And I feel like they could easily wrap this up in next episodes. Like, what are the other 3 episodes going to be about? It's like, yeah, so I will be curious to see where this goes. I mean, in that respect, it is moving a lot faster. But then it makes me think like, well, is there some kind of, I don't want to say like hidden agenda, but there's like a part of the story that we don't really know that is going to be a part of this that is going to tie up, or that's going to be the focus of those last 4 episodes.
Yeah, it feels like we are still in the dark on so much of what's happening. So yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting to me, and I've enjoyed it. But I feel like they've really given us very little of what we want. What do we want to know? All the answers. So I hope we get them in the last half of the season. So
Well, I know one of the writers I saw posted on social media where it was asked about, hey, this episode was so short. Was there a reason behind that? And that writer had said that there's a certain number of minutes that they get to have for their entire season. And as they were breaking down this story, which kind of really ties heavily into episode 5, which we got next week, that the way it broke down is that it was that episode 5 is going to be longer than episode 4 for sure. But just the way that it kind of broke down and how they wanted to kind of tell it, that it necessitated episode 4 being on the shorter end. So,
Yeah.
with that said, it is a very kind of slight episode. We really, yeah, I mean, we spend some time trying to, well, say hello and goodbye to Kelnaka, our Wookiee Jedi Master, who we got to spend hardly any time with, who seemed way more intriguing in the idea than we ever really got to see in the execution. But it is all about the who's going to get to Kelnaka first on Kofar. And that's the big race between whether it's going to be May or it's going to be Sol and Osha and the rest of the Jedi squad. Who's going to get to Kelnaka first to either save him, kill him, capture May, kill May? Who knows? But we start off there on uh, Coruscant, where we've got some Jedi training going and Osha's ready to peace out. I don't know how you felt about all this stuff on Coruscant, John, because it felt like a lot of resetting for such a short episode. We were doing a lot of resetting of of the table. Like, hey guys, just in case you forgot about what's been happening in the story, here's a bunch of stuff where I felt like, boy, we could have just not done that and gotten more story instead. How did you feel?
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like I get they want to show Osha like having these doubts about herself and feeling like she wants to leave, but I also feel like that part of it wasn't. I mean, I guess in a way we did get to see how Osha and Jackie's relationship has sort of like evolved a little bit because we saw Jackie being so surprised that Osha wanted to leave before they were able to arrest May and bring her in and all that. Um, so I guess maybe they wanted to kind of maybe show that relationship, but it felt to me like a lot of that stuff was not necessary because Osha's just going to end up going with them anyway. And it's clear that she wants to be there because as soon as Sol proposes to her to come on this mission and help them, she's like, "You want me to rejoin the Jedi?" And I feel like you could have not even had that Osha and Jackie scene in there and
Hmm.
started at a different point on Coruscant where Sol's trying to get Osha to come on this mission, and she's like, "Oh, you still want me to be a Jedi?" Um, and I feel like it still could have been just as good, and it would have given you an extra 5 to 10 minutes of storytelling on the back end of this. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Oh man, is Frank frozen?
Come back, Frank. Come back. No, come back.
There we
He's
go. So
frozen. There he's back.
there you go. Froze for a second there in my deep thoughts. They were so deep it caused the internet to freeze on my end. Uh, that I felt like with the episode 3 being that flashback, I guess they were assuming like, hey, guess what? They did a lot of bonding that we never really saw on screen. So by the time we get to episode 4, we can assume that like Oja and Jackie are really great pals. Where, you know, there didn't seem to be much of that alluded to in like episode 3. So you're like, oh, all right, I guess let it
Right,
bonding on the way back to Coruscant, I guess.
right, yeah. Because I feel like when episode 3 started, right? Was it episode 3 or episode 2 actually? When it seemed like Jackie was very doubtful of Osha, like didn't trust her really. It took Soul doing some convincing. So it's a
Hmm.
pretty quick time frame to go from not knowing this person, having your doubts, to like being sad that they're leaving. Like that
Yeah.
quickly.
Because I think it was only Osha like when she gave Jackie like something that she could do to help fix something on the ship to help it perform better. Once she gave her like that information, oh, you could try doing this with the ship. She's like, oh, hey, all right, I guess you're cool now. And I guess uh Jackie did a complete 180 on her
Yeah,
feelings about Osha.
that's all it takes.
But now, John, I feel like while we're on Coruscant, it does tie into one of the biggest concerns that people have about this episode in particular was your boy. future Jedi Council member Kai Adimundi being in there. Where already people are griping about like, wait a minute, isn't he, how's he referring to all this? Shouldn't he be like not born at this point? Uh, how did you feel about seeing his cameo? And does it break any sort of canon
So
you've seen?
in terms of Mundy showing up in this episode, I will say I did have, I did have a question in my mind immediately when I saw him too. I did go online and try to look at what other people were saying, and I did see one article out there saying that apparently the references to Mundi's like birth date are actually they're not canon. It was like put together by this sort of obscure source that came up with their own little story, but it's not canon. So technically, the show didn't break canon. If people have issues with it, it is what it is. Like, I'm not gonna get annoyed with them for it, but it doesn't bother me personally. And then in terms of, because I think he was the one, right, in the prequel trilogy, who was actually like the Sith haven't been seen in a millennia, or whatever. But I will say that, like, from a certain point of view, like, it's still not incorrect for him to say that later on because I mean, unless something changes in the show from what we see moving forward, but I feel like in this little meeting that the Jedi were having to talk about all this stuff, he was the one being like, oh, an apprentice that doesn't even know her master? That's absurd. Like, it seems like he's the one in the room more than anyone else that's like, this is ridiculous. It's not the Sith. All right, just get out of here. So, like, depending on how this all ends, this whole series, there might not be any reason for him to suspect that there was, a possible sighting of the Sith here now, 100 years before the events of the prequels. So I don't know. I'm still willing to wait and see how that all plays out. But I also don't, fault anyone for having their complaints about it. So
Yeah, it is interesting with canon where it's if it canon's great when it works in your favor, and then if it breaks something that's not in your personal canon, or something that hasn't been, or even something that's like a kind of some fan established canon but never verified, but fans of because of no other kind of official source ever saying anything, it's just become kind of adopted by the fans as like in fact like legitimate canon that when something goes against it by the very company that is creating all this material for the canon, like, no, you've broken it. How dare you?
right,
You don't care about the characters. You don't care about us. You're destroying Star Wars. How could
right,
you?
right. I
Uh,
also I will I'll say, like, because I know there's been a lot of negativity around this show and the whole people saying it's too woke or this or that, whatever. Okay, but does any Star Wars fan really care about how old Kiadi Mundi is? Of all things, that's what's gonna destroy Star Wars for you? Is that this show got Kiadi Mundi's age wrong? Who cares?
I will say when I saw that, I had to stop. I had to do a few walks around the block, really just kind of, blow off some steam, just really let that anger out. As I'd walk by people, I was like, you don't understand what they're doing on the Acolyte. They're ruining it. But then I calmed down in time enough for the podcast here. So, whew. Otherwise, you called me like, a couple hours ago, fired up, fired up.
Oh,
Uh, but I guess, as much as we had talked about in that first episode, where, this is, 100 years before the prequel films, still the Jedi are really, I mean, we're already seeing that they're still not in great shape because it's already like, do we pursue this officially? And if we do, then it has to go to the High Council. If it goes to the High Council, it has to go to the Senate, and then it becomes a bigger thing. So already we see like the Jedi not even being honest with everybody in their order by compartmentalizing information and stuff like this. So I mean, I guess in that sense it does lead up to like, well, yeah, you can already see, guys, the Jedi were already kind of broken even at this point 100 years before the prequels.
yeah, and that makes sense to me. Like, I've seen a number of people online complaining about how these new people in charge of Star Wars are making the Jedi look so bad. And I was like, when you consider what happened, like, there was some real failures along the way, and it wasn't an overnight thing. This happened over time. Like, it would be hard to take down the Jedi Order, right? Thousands of Jedi that are supposed to be these incredibly powerful beings. Like, it's going to be a very difficult and long task for that to happen. Like, it's not going to be like the Jedi were perfect, and then one day Palpatine got lucky and killed every single one of them. Like, that's not how this works. It's like at some point, if for the whole Jedi Order to fail, there had to be a lot of failure before that led up to it. So I have no problem if we're 100 years out. That's not that long in terms of like historical, time frames. To go from in one century to go from being the pinnacle of like this organization to being destroyed. That makes sense to me. So
So we're on a race to Kofar. Who's going to get there? And we do see that May and Kimmer show there. That's Kimmer, right? Is that how you pronounce his name?
I think
Or
it's
Quimmer?
Timer.
Timer.
Yeah.
They get there first, and it's all about as they're making their trek, which has some lovely location
Oh,
photography. It does have some beautiful location photography, and then it's only until they get like up close within the jungle that some of you look like, oh, we just went to a studio set for some of this close up stuff in the jungle. But a lot of the wide location stuff is beautiful.
yeah, it really looks beautiful. One other little nitpick that I would have though is that I I I was getting confused a little bit, not in the episode, but just like between Kofar and Brendock, those two planets. I kind of felt like they didn't do quite as good of a job of like kind of just making them distinct from each other. Um, so I think like in episode two, we ended with Kelnaka on Kofar, and that we got a little hint of him. And then the next episode opened up on a forest, and I'm like, oh, we get more of Kelnaka, awesome. And we were on Brenda, and then you know what I mean. And then now in this episode, we're on Kofar, and I'm like, that looks like Brenda. So that's a little nitpick that I had. It's just making them look a little bit more distinct. That's all.
Uh, it's tough with the Wookiees. Because I enjoy them as a character and a species within the Star Wars universe. To have them as a kind of integral part of a plot, it's tough since they really can't communicate, and we're not doing subtitles on this show or in Star Wars to kind of understand what a Wookiee is saying. It's always got to be translated by somebody else, or everybody just understanding Wookiee and knowing what they say. Uh, I don't know. I was excited about the prospect of seeing a Wookiee Jedi. How did you feel about that, and how did you feel about what we've seen of Kilnaka thus far in the series?
Yeah, definitely bummed to see him kind of get cut down like that so quick. I felt like that was a big, point that people were excited about was seeing this first live action, Wookiee. And like you said, it's hard, you can't really get dialogue with him. But like, I do feel like I was also kind of bummed after Endara got killed so quick. But we did get more of her in that flashback episode. So I'm wondering if we're going to get more Kelnaka that way through flashbacks. Not even so far back as the incident on Brendock with the whole, witch coven, but maybe just seeing what happened in that little hut of his. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a flashback of what actually happened to him, and maybe we find out that he actually had an actual fight with this Sith Lord or something before he got killed. He wasn't just sitting in a chair and just got executed or whatever. Like maybe we'll see something more from him. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
It seemed like, because we do, before actually we even leave Coruscant, we do have a scene between Sol and Venestra where he's trying to plead his case that he should be the one to go get May, as opposed to another Jedi that she wants to send in place of that. Uh, but even Venestra is like, hey, why didn't anybody tell me what happened 16 years ago, that like the four Jedis involved with them, two are dead, and one is right now being hunted. Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of plays back into the Jedi's compartmentalizing stuff. And so even the four of them were like, whatever happened here, we'll just keep it to ourselves and not tell anybody else.
Right. Um, and I also feel this did I don't think that Soul is like a Sith Lord or anything. I don't think that he's the villain, but it did make me realize that like there's a lot more to Soul here. Like he's clearly hiding something. Like he's not, maybe he didn't commit the worst act of those four Jedi, whatever happened there. But he clearly like knows more information about it than he's ever told anyone. Like he certainly has his own faults in this as well. Um, So it made me feel like, there's something up with Soul too. I I need more from him. I need more information.
Yeah, and especially to, I mean, hopefully we will get some flashback or some explanation for why it seemed like Soul and Andara were on the same page about taking Osha and training her to be a Jedi. Yet at some point, Andara kind of changed her tune and so like, nope, you guys got to boot her. And so like what led to Andara like doing a 180 on even that, where she felt like Osha wasn't shouldn't be a Jedi.
Right.
Because even though Osha says it was her choice to leave, you can tell by the way, like we were talking about before, like when Sol asks her, yeah, she's like, yeah, you want me back? I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like with Endara too, like that's I know we're gonna get more flashbacks and stuff, but more Endara, but like it's just interesting to me to think about where these four Jedi were when the series started too. Like between Torben being in this Barash vow, um, Kelnaka, we find out has been no contact with anyone for a year, has been hiding on his own. Soul was still training at the Jedi Temple, and I felt like Endara she seemed to be the one that had like the least remorse than anybody, the least guilt about whatever happened. Just hanging out in this bar with these people, like she, I don't know, it just there's something more about Endara that I'm looking to find out too. Like why it feels like she is the one that has the least guilt of anybody. But I don't know.
Yeah, because it is interesting that three of them have kind of either isolated themselves or kind of fled. That Soul is the one that's still there on Coruscant, training all the Jedi still. Like that if he's still so close, it makes me think like either does he, how involved is he on everything? Because it doesn't seem like he has. He knows stuff, but I don't know how much like guilt or responsibility he feels for incidents that may have happened 16 years ago.
Yeah, I did get moments though where I did feel he had that guilt in him. We haven't gotten to this point yet, but like later on, he tells Osha like, "You're not here to fight your sister. Like you're here to face your past, and I'm gonna do the same." Like there were hints in there that he feels responsible for something that happened. Um, and this whole thing is still such a nice. Like I'm having so much fun kind of coming up with all the theories about what this could all be. Because like even the fact that on Brendok when all that happened, the only Jedi that we saw trying to save May and Osha was Soul, right? Where were the other three in that exact moment? What were they doing? Where? So that's part of the reason too why I feel like he is not really a villain, but like clearly knows more and maybe wasn't involved in whatever happened with the other three Jedi that maybe they're feeling. So, Kelnaka has to isolate himself. Torben has to take this vow. And maybe Indara doesn't feel as much remorse because she doesn't really care. And maybe there's more to her than we realize that she could be maybe flirting with the dark side. I don't know. So,
Yeah.
um, but
And we do see in Kelnaka, while we do see him doing his stuff in his little hut hideaway, that we do see the same kind of white tattoo kind of scar that we saw on May after she went through the Ascension. That is there on painted on her panel along with a few other designs as well too. So clearly Kelnaka is like diving into some witchcraft lore and
I almost felt with Kelnaka, like the way it was being like presented made it seem like he probably was like guilt ridden, but also that he was almost losing his mind in a way with his own little like cave drawings and like um obviously no contact with anyone for a year is going to make you go a little crazy. So like I don't know. Um Very curious though why he was drawing that symbol over and over again. And the symbol itself was interesting. It almost looked like it could have been some kind of like star map or something. I know it's significant to the Coven. Like wonder if we'll learn more about about some of that symbol and what it means. Um so
well, I guess this leads us to like another part that people are speculating about. How much of it is a red herring? How much of it actually might be true? And that is a relationship between May, Chimera, and the Master. Because as they do their trek to try to find Kelnaka, they start chatting about like the Master and Chimera just like says like, oh no, no, he just he likes to collect people, especially like people that may owe him something. So I am here, but I've never seen his face. I haven't seen him, but we got to get going. It's only like 10 minutes from here, so let's keep going. Uh, People are speculating that maybe he is indeed the master, or could that it seems so obvious as to be a red herring. During the course of the episode, how did you feel? What is your speculation?
Yeah, I am incredibly suspicious of Timer, and I actually am leaning in the direction. That's the thing. I'm having trouble accepting it myself because I feel like is this just too obvious? Like, but just the way that he acts, like he acts like such sort of like a doofus, and like a clumsy guy. But at the same time, that whole time they're walking, he is like it felt like trying to teach her in a way, and was getting annoyed at times that she wasn't like getting it in like almost. Because he would like ask her questions, be like, "Oh well, what do you think this kill a Jedi without a master, without a weapon is? Do you think you have to like go unarmed and then try to take their saber and disarm them, and you can kill them with that, or is that cheating?" Like the way that he's like talking all these, through all these things makes me feel like he's trying to like get her to catch on, is getting frustrated that she's not. Because there are even moments where his demeanor changes a little bit. He'll act all silly and this and that, and then she'll be like, "Oh, have you ever seen his face?" And he'll turn around and be like, "I haven't." And it's like, all right, okay, I just asked
Yeah.
a question. And then even the fact that like they got to that point where May like really wanted to sit down and take a rest. She was like, after this whole trek through the jungle, I still have to fight a Wookiee. This guy didn't seem out of breath at all. He's totally
It's
fine.
true.
He's like annoyed that she wants to sit down. And then the fact that he's just always got these heavy clothing on. Like I just there's something like I'm almost wondering if he's like jacked under there. He's always wearing like these heavy, like baggy clothing. He's got these bags on him that we never see what's inside. There's something very sketchy about Timer to me, and it makes me feel like he's either got to be the Sith or this is purposely being done just to throw us all off. Um, you know,
Yeah, because what ends up happening is when he leaves her to go, I'll get you some water. He comes back and May has set up a little trap, a classic Star Wars rope trap where he steps in and gets hung upside down, and then May says, "Hey, guess what? Osha's alive. That changes everything. You know, I'm gonna come clean to the Jedi, tell them what I know, and we'll see what happens here." And it doesn't matter because there's no way that the master, even if he's mad at me for doing this, he's not gonna catch up to me here. Uh, this seemed to me such a 180 for May, to be like, hey, yep, guess what? I'm out. I'm gonna do this. Like, why none of that happened as soon as she saw Osha, but then took all this time going like, yeah, now I think I'm ready to just, flip the script. Did it track for you, or did it seem a little too fast and a little unearned?
hmm. Honestly, I didn't give this much thought when I watched it the first time. Um, that's a good question though. I'm okay with it. I think. Um, I feel like that journey they were having through the jungle, she was starting to feel a little uncomfortable with everything and was talking about it and was maybe thinking it through. And I think that sometimes, I mean, it's happened to me. I think where I'm so set thinking one way, or maybe I know I have something coming up. I'm really nervous about it, right? And I'm like, and then I in my mind I'm racing. I'm like, how do I get out of this, or how do I make it so I can do this differently, or whatever? And then you think you come up with a solution, and you're like, all right, this is what I'm doing. I'm all in full. This is it. I found my way out, or something. And it's like maybe she's just desperately trying to find any way out, thinking like, there's no way I'm going to be able to kill a Wookiee Jedi without a weapon. So like, I have to get out of this. OSHA's my way out. I just found her. Let's get out of here. Like, I can understand it being almost like a fight or flight, like panic sort of thing, and that's why it like was such a quick switch for her.
Yeah, because I mean, the way that she said, like, hey, all she cares about is Osha, it seems so weird to come to the girl that we saw at the end of episode 3. It was like, I'm gonna kill you so you never leave this planet, and I'm gonna set fire to this room to get rid of you. To go from that to then like, I don't know, Osha's the only thing I care about. Uh, I mean, yes, there was 16 years where she could have realized her actions were terrible and that she regrets it and she really wants to make sure that she's, you know, there with Osha as true sisters now and not try and apologize for her murder. But it to me it seems so weird to go from I'm gonna burn you and kill you to like Osha's all I care about now. She's the most important thing to me. Goodbye, master.
Very fair. Very fair. Uh,
In the meantime, Soul and the group they land on the planet as well. And how do you find a Wookiee? It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Well, you got to have your own tracker, which they do bring. And we get as always, Pip, not a fan of that guy, just squirts him in the face. Yeah, but they give him a little scent of Kelnaka, and they're off. Uh, and we see during the course of that, she does. Osha stops Yord and just says, "Hey, promise me something. If I can't reason with May, that if it comes to it, you've got to kill her." And Yord doesn't seem down for it. He's like he's putting his full faith in Soul as like, "Hey, there's a reason that Soul believes that she can be saved, and I'm not going to kill her. We'll just detain her." But Osha's not buying it. She seems like hell bent on wanting to, make sure her sister is taken out. Which I guess if your sister set fire to you, John, I'm sure you would be like, maybe I'm not going to be so quick to give her a hug.
yeah, our relationship will probably not be the same
Yeah.
with my sister. Yeah, well, definitely. Um, it is interesting. It's just funny. It feels like both Osha and May are guilty. It seems very often of like slightly misunderstanding what's trying to be taught to them. You know what I mean? Like it's like she's she thinks that she's being brought along to kill her sister, and it's like no. Soul's like I just want you to face your past. Like you don't have to kill anybody. like, and then it's like with May, it seems like she's just not getting even Keimer, and like I feel like this is like a reason why he could be the Sith Lord is that he's getting. It seems like he's getting frustrated that she's not getting it. Like how this is how you're supposed to kill a Jedi without a weapon and this and that. Like it's funny how they're both seemingly like a little bit off on both sides, right? The dark side and the light side. It's like I don't know. Um, I don't know. They're an interesting duo.
And I do like Yord's like, you're gonna need to give me back that weapon. You can't. That's not for regular people. Come on, Yord. As always, just a fish is to a fault.
Yeah.
But as a
You're not
regular,
you're not in the Yord Horde.
not the Yord Horde. I don't know. Uh, I don't know about that guy. I could be won over by him. The possibility exists that I am won over by him. But right now, he just seems more like a himbo Jedi kind of guy.
Oh yeah, he is.
Uh,
Definitely. Although I did enjoy his bragging about how he learned Basil's language because it was more nuanced than the Wookiee language.
You're right.
I I really hope that we get to hear Yord speak that language because it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. I mean, once we heard Basil starting to talk in the episode, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I can see those nuances really coming out. Uh, as Saul and the crew are making their way through the forest, though, they come across this kind of area where Basil says it's kind of like, rotting, and uh, Saul's like, let's just keep going. And Osha is feeling some kind of weird reconnection to the Force that she hasn't felt in a long time. So it touches one of the creatures there. It's an Umbra moth that takes off, flies around, and then Soul ends up killing it. I don't know. I that scene kind of was weird for me, as in like, why did we go all the way straight to killing, as opposed to, hey, we're one with the Force. Why aren't we kind of like, reasoning with this creature as opposed to just immediately going to kill him? Did that scene seem odd to you at all, or is it like, oh, it's just a cool little action beat within this whole sequence?
So here's okay. This is something that I kind of felt like was happening during the episode too. It seemed to me like Soul in particular was like so dead set and focused on trying to get to make sure that they got to Kelnaka first before May. And I'm wondering if it's some of it could have had to even maybe do with that. It's like it seemed like he immediately told everybody, "Stand down, I've got this." And I feel like he probably was thinking like, "I just need to kill this thing, and so we can keep moving and get to Kelnaka as fast as possible." And I'm wondering if maybe that played into that at all. Um, but I did think it was interesting that they, made sure to mention that these things were attracted to light, and we saw a whole lot of lightsabers being ignited at the end of the episode. So I'm curious to see. I
Yeah.
don't think that's the last of these creatures that we're gonna see.
No, that is true. Uh, well, we do see that everybody kind of convenes on Kelnaka's uh little hideaway, and it's May 1st, who ends up kind of tripping and falling right in front of Basil. So he sounds the alarm. She runs inside, finds Kelnaka cut down by a lightsaber. And then the Jedi show up, and they're all about like wanting to come out. For as much as she wanted to get in front of the Jedi, she maybe because she's feeling caught or feels like she's, going to be framed for this murder, she's reluctant to step out. But there's part of me that's like, you wanted to find these guys. So why are you hesitating when they're saying come out?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, especially because of the fact that like it's clear that Kelnaka was killed by a lightsaber. You don't have a lightsaber.
Yeah.
So like just go out there. I mean, unless she was so terrified because she knew that it had to be her master that she literally just said she was going to try to walk away from. Maybe that's why she was so hesitant to come outside. But that was my first thought was like go out there. It'll be even if they right off the bat think that you did this. As soon as you show them like I don't have a lightsaber, he clearly was killed by a lightsaber, and then this Sith Lord comes out like okay, you're good now. But yeah, so she was just hiding in that little hut though. So
Yeah, and we do see that as May's looking out, seeing everything. Uh, Osha's behind the Jedi, and then blurry in the background, even behind Osha, somebody just kind of descends into the frame and walks up to Osha, and I guess that is the Master. Uh, what did you think of the Master now that we got more of an up close look at him?
I really like this look and everything. I thought this scene was really well done. I thought it was really badass how like you see this Sith Lord coming down, descending slowly, like you said, but like it's kind of out of focus. It's just like this really ominous moment, and this was very effective for me. I thought. Um, so and it was funny because earlier in the episode, I was like, we've only seen this mysterious Sith one time for like 5 seconds. Like we got to get more soon. And I felt like even though it was brief, in this episode, like it was a really effective scene. I thought like this is a really this person is also way more powerful than I thought they might be from what we saw. That force push was insane.
Yeah.
But so I'm glad we finally got a little bit more. I just it's still a little too short for me. I don't know what this deal is with Star Wars lately, hiding their villains as much as possible. Like I know there's supposed to be a mystery element to this, but the person has a mask on. You could still get some more scenes of them without us knowing who it is. So um, I do feel like we really need to see more. I'm also curious if Keimer is this master, right? It almost makes me wonder who Keimer's master is. Because if he is like the Sith apprentice to like the true Sith Lord, and May, she's clearly, she's his apprentice. Like, could this be following the rule of two, like Keimer trying to train May to be his apprentice, but Keimer's ultimate goal is to kill whoever's above him? I know some people were speculating is Endara a secret Sith Lord or this or that. Like, maybe one of these Jedi could be secretly the Sith master, and Keimer's trying to get this master killed or something. I don't know, just throwing random things out there, but I don't know. This show has been very good about making me just think about it, every crazy theory I could possibly think of.
True, because I feel like it also plays into whatever happened 16 years ago as well, too. And whether that's Keimer was back there 16 years ago, and he's just a really kind of a long-lived being, so that his he looks very still has a youthful appearance even now, or there was like a master above, whether it's Keimer or somebody else who they face at the end of it. Uh, that is one, but I feel like it all ties back into like it seems like whoever the master is, whether it's Keimer or somebody above, uh, probably was in the mix about what happened 16 years ago as well too. Do you think?
Yeah, I do. Um, yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, because I mean, certainly, as what Osha and May's mom says like, the what we used to be able to create this baby, kind of dark side stuff. So, I'm sure that, puts them at least on the radar, whoever that master is.
Right. Oh, definitely. Hmm.
Yeah, so it ends with we see the master, he pulls out his red lightsaber. He just yeets OSHA off camera real quick, as Soul, the rest of the team decide to charge at him, and he just force pushes them away, and we go to credits. That was it.
Yeah.
Just when it gets good, John, they just
No,
nope, that's enough. We're going right to credits.
it was a good cliffhanger though. Yeah, I mean, it's wild. I really think it's sad too. I keep seeing online, like the audience score for the show on places like Rotten Tomatoes is like 14% or something, but all the critic reviews are like 80% and higher. So, um, just weird. There's something weird going on with the show, but I'm
I
enjoying it.
Out of all the Star Wars properties so far, I feel like this one is really, it is like if you just hop on YouTube and you start scrolling down, just the amount of just negative uh videos about this show, from men, from women, people of color, or whatnot. Just everybody just seems to have a bone to pick with this show, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. So their loss.
Yeah, I don't know. It it just seems like there's, I don't know, I can't, I've tried to watch one or two and it just gets so tiresome to watch one of those videos that I just like, okay, I get it, I gotta go. uh that I just can't, it's tough for me to go like, well, what's your, your worldview of Star Wars seems so small.
Yeah, and I think what bothers me, most of all, is when I'll see people online talking about how they've heard from someone else how much they hated the show, so they're not even going to bother watching it because they know it's trash. And it's like, I feel like there's a lot of I've seen a lot of things out there like that, like people openly admitting they have not watched a single second of the show, but are just going to say they hate it and that it's trash because they don't want. They'll say that they think that Disney is purposely, after spending $4 billion on it, is purposely destroying Star Wars. That's what people out there are saying.
Ugh. Uh,
They paid $4 billion for something to ruin it.
James Lott Jr., our very own resident Jedi Master, is force ghosting his way in. You've seen the first three episodes. So, James, can you understand the internet backlash on the show, or are you confused by it?
I'm glad I came at that. I'm glad you guys went to this part. I am I do want to weigh in on that because um what I because I first sorry, there's a giant spider above me right now.
In your mouth, let him crawl in.
Yeah, I'll be right.
What if James never comes back? That was it. That was the last time.
I feel like all James wants to do is podcast with us, and like every second he tries to do it, something goes wrong.
uh,
Let the man talk about Star Wars with his friends. Universe.
uh, yeah, it is a bummer, and I don't even know. Like I would say, John, what do you think is going to happen in the next four episodes? It is just tough to figure out. But I would think it seems like it's not so clear cut between Osha and May. I feel like there's another mix of that kind of relationship. I feel like there's something to Osha still feeling a connection to the Force. There's something about May, like her attachment to Osha and what that means. That I feel like I guess we'll see kind of play out over the next course of the four episodes. Would that be a fair thing that you think we might see?
Oh, definitely. I think a lot of there's been a lot of around OSHA realizing that May was alive, not being able to shoot her when she had the chance, right, or at least to stun her or whatever. Um, there's May now willing to throw all this aside now that she knows that OSHA is back, and I think that it is important to remember that like their birth was obviously not conventional. It was pretty unusual. I think we talked a little bit about last week about how like we've seen the idea of like a dyad in the Force recently with Kylo and Rey, and could this be something like that? And so it makes sense that their connection would be on this other level that like we don't yet understand until we see something more from the show to kind of explain it. Um,
Uh,
so
well, that ties back into, and we'll go here and then we'll go back to the internet since we're right on this topic. Is that was a big thing that happened, especially after last episode, where it was revealed that supposedly Luke Skywalker or Anakin was kind of a, an unusual birth. But then to discover that, oh no, 100, 116 years ago, there was also an unusual kind of birth, conception of a child. Uh, and so that totally breaks canon and it, diminishes Anakin. He's no longer special in that case. Uh, James John, knowing that, do you agree? Or do you feel like, nope, there can also just be other people that have also had the same kind of unusual birth experience, but that still doesn't diminish Anakin.
I don't think it diminishes Anakin to me. I think there's enough that you could, use to make it different. We've seen how the Night Sister magic is interesting. It's different than it's similar. It's all tied into the Force, but it is a little different. And I think that if some kind of magic was used to create them, that could make a distinct difference between these twins and Anakin. I also feel like it's possible that even if it was the exact same way, these twins and Anakin being born, maybe that's something that the Jedi covered up because it was done by this dark side witch coven. You know what I mean? It was like, we can't have people thinking that the chosen one was created the same way as these two daughters of this witch coven that, like we're working on the dark side of the Force, whatever it is. Like maybe that's part of the cover up, that we'll get to see about why Soul and these other Jedi didn't want to say anything about this, whatever, I don't know. I think it's interesting. And I think there's definitely room to work with it to make it so that it doesn't like kind of diminish Anakin in any way.
So
Uh, James?
to answer your last question, and this because I can do it all the same, I can tie it all together.
Whoa, because you're an expert. That's why you are the legend that is JLJ.
Thank you, AfterBuzz TV. No, here's really not thank you. Here's the thing. So I had heard and read beforehand, after the last week's episodes aired, or all the episodes aired, all the negativity. And it's universally negative, which I'm like, you're more so some of the other shows. It's like we've covered all of them so far that have been released. And I'm like, why is this one really getting? But even before I watched a single frame, I'm like, why is it getting such negativity? So then I watched the first few episodes, and I'm going, why is it getting such negativity? I feel like we're in this universe where we just complain about everything. And everybody's a gatekeeper. And the problem is, I'm of the mind as I was watching this, there are other things that were going on in the Jedi in the universe. Like it wasn't we were being told one story. That's how I look at all of these shows. Look at them that way. Like we're being told one story, so we have to get rid of this whole canon, not canon, whatever. It's like there's because when time moves forward, this is basically a prequel of sorts, right? So it's kind of like we're going backwards, even before. So I'm looking forward going, okay, this means we're being told other stories then. So yes, this birth was magical, this whole thing, whatever, difficult and stuff. But yeah, that happened. Okay. That happened. We heard that first. Other stuff happened too. And I'm with I almost called you Joey. Johnny, Joe, who the fuck you are. My thing is, I'm with you, Dunphy. There you go. That it's that, there could be a tie to it. It could be something we'll find out. That's the whole point of now creating these shows. See, I think the problem is we've never had series. It's always been books, comics, movies. And so now that we're actually populating the universe with all of these things now, or more, yeah, sure. I'm open to stuff. And I was watching it going, it's very youthful compared to some of the others. To me, for me, I'm old, an old hag. So it's very youthful for me, very young adultish kind of thing. it's Jedi. It's still Jedi related, but it's a different story. We're telling us almost like crime. We're telling us crime story. We're telling a story. There's familiar phrases and things that we're seeing that make sense. A Wookiee would make sense. All that stuff. It's like it's to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Twins, love a twist. That's cool. I mean, I'm like, I kind of was watching, going, that's cool. And one of the things, and I know that Frank also watches Star Trek stuff. It reminded me of that in the sense of looking at the cast. All the later, well, even Next Generation, most of the cast are integrated. It was just like they didn't make a big deal about it either. I mean, we had black captains and women captains. Like it was just like this reminds me more of how other shows are. It's just I don't see it woke. I just see it as they yes, it is kind of female driven, female of color. I feel like there's just racists out there. I think that people are straight out racist. I'm calling it, I don't care. Straight out racist or misogynics or both who just get mad. But what's so funny is I was reading up on it, the first 3 episodes were the most watched period, the first 3 episodes of any Star Wars series.
Yeah.
It's only second in 5-day run behind Ahsoka. So again, 2 female kind of led series doing very well to begin. Like they're getting in the number, so people are watching it. Bless you, Frank.
Yeah.
They're watching it. But the thing is, like, so I'm like, but I don't think it's horrible. I think it's bad. I just think it's different, which is why I was excited to watch it, because it was something different. And we're telling these stuff. I like learning all these different stories that are happening. Again, I'm a person, I don't do the comics, but I do the books. I read the books a lot of times. That's something I still do. I'm reading the High Republic series. I'm still reading that stuff. So I'm like, I'm into these different stories with familiar things in them. When they mention Luke, when they mention, it's like, that all makes sense to me. It all makes sense. But it's like, we're over here now. Instead of being over here. It's like, that's what it looks like to me, Frank. That's kind of how I enjoyed the first 3 series, at least the first 3 episodes. I'm going to watch the 4th. I had a family thing today. I couldn't watch it. But I found that it's not my favorite of all the series. No, still Andor is my favorite of all the series. And Mandalorian season 2 is one of my favorites. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just say, I agree with everything you just said. I think that a big issue with the whole woke, anti-woke thing also is that everything is just political. Everything now has just become part of the political sphere. So it's like even entertainment, if like you said, I'm not, just call it out, right? If the racists out there, the sexists, and people who are homophobic think there's not enough white men in something, they're going to review bomb it, right? Which is what we saw happening. Even before the show came out, there were sites getting negative reviews about the Acolyte. They ended up taking those reviews down, and then now that the show is out, they put them back up just to make it look like people weren't sending in these negative reviews before the show even aired. So like, how can anybody give a negative review of something they haven't seen? But so I think that's part of it. And then also something else you just said there, James, about how it's a big galaxy, right? There's different things going on all over the galaxy at different times. And like, to me, one of my favorite series, one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars now is Star Wars Rebels, an animated show that takes place after the fall, of the Jedi Council, the Jedi Order, as the rise of the Empire is going on. I freaking love Rebels, and it goes from the beginning of the Empire all the way to the end when Sabine is, narrating about how the Empire fell and what Sabine was doing and what Hera was doing and all that. And all this we know was going on at the same time as the main story that we know of Luke, Leia, and Han and everybody else. Everything that happened in Rebels, nothing diminished the original trilogy for me. I love them both now so much. Like, it's okay to have things going on in one part of the galaxy and then something else happening in another part of the galaxy at the same time that are completely different with completely different looking characters too. Like, that's okay to happen.
It's also like when we watched Andor, it was another glimpse of kind of like the minutia of what's going on building the Empire, what's going on below. Like, it was also a different take. I mean, like, it's like, I think of Rogue One, which basically filled in the gap. Like, that was well received for some reason. Certain characters weren't, of course, we know what happened there. But it was just like, I feel like we're filling out the universe, Frank. That's what I end, John. That's why I feel like we're starting to. It was one. I was there in 1977. It was one movie. They didn't think it was going to be a hit. I was there. I was 8 years old in the theater, excited, and that was to be to wait another 3 years for another movie. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like we have now. It's like every, there was like another 10 years before, the second set came out. And there was another, like we did. So now we can actually fill out the stories. That's kind of the beauty of it. Not all of them everybody's going to love. Not everybody's going to like all of them. I mean, there's some we like more than others, whatever. But to me, now there's pieces being filled in. And like I said, this is a prequel, basically. And like we get to now knowing stuff before this. I mean, there was a whole life before Luke and all that. What was going on? There's a whole separate life. I mean, I just, and the word Jedi is not just set for the Skywalker family. Like, if there's the Jedi, was all over. I mean, they're all over the place. There are lots of them. They're all. It's a whole thing. Padawan. We said last week, I was like, people get mad at Padawan. Like, that's the whole thing. What the f? That's
You're
the
not
point.
a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master. You're a Padawan. Like, what do you want them to change the word because you're tired of hearing it? Like,
right. It's like, so I saw that. I was like, that's so hilarious to me. But I think some of it is racist driven and female hating driven. And like you said, we're being erased. The white boys. It's like, no, it's like, this is just another. There's so many series out. It's just a series where it's leading with these films.
Yeah.
I don't know, Frank.
No, I think there's definitely. I mean, we've been, critical of aspects of all the Disney Plus series for Star Wars, and there's reasons, but I mean, none of it has to do with any sort of woke agenda. It is just, storytelling and character arcs and how well those are executed and developed over the course of a series. I mean, stuff like Andor, boy, fired on all cylinders, and then you've got other stuff like Book of Boba Fett, which just uh had potential, but just went in some kind of really unusual direction.
Oh, it's something. Just wait quick. So, folks at home, thank you for making the Book of Boba Fett after show my number one show today. Out of like 70 shows I have, it's number one by a landslide. Don't know why you're listening to it. I mean, I'm glad you are, but just I don't know why you're listening to it. But I guess maybe you're catching on to us. We are here. Go, if you have to go see your other after shows first, we will be here for you. So we will be here. You come check us out. We did one for every, literally, they're not joking. We've done one for every, live action series. I talk about Bad Batch seasons 1 and 2 on my Darth Vader show, but I'm like, we've been talking about this stuff, and we have been critical. We have been like, I mean, Boba Fett, homeboy it was Mandalorian for 2 episodes. I mean, like, come on, folks.
He nodded. James, he nodded, an Emmy Award-winning nod.
Award-winning nod heard around the world. And
there was only 8 episodes in that season.
Wait, what?
Right? There was only 8 episodes, and 2 of them were all Mando. That's 25% of Boba Fett's series was not even Boba Fett.
Yes, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, we're critical of all the matchups, and we talk about we really, but we don't base them on. I don't base them on race or something. I mean,
how about that chase scene through the forest with Leia? Remember that one?
Yeah.
From an animated Disney movie.
where the guy just bonks his head and that was awful. Like, falls down.
I'm just saying, we trust me. We're not kumbaya, like we accept everything that comes in, but I just think that for me especially, I'm excited to see these different, because we didn't have this before. When I was, the kid in me is like going, I would have never met. Star Trek's always had series at some point after the movies. They had series. Star Wars wasn't like that. We didn't have not in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, we didn't have any of that stuff until about 5-6 years ago. That's when the first Mandalorian came out. I mean, other than that, we never had that. So to me, it's an extra bonus to me to see how these go. I mean, I love it.
I mean, just think of the hype that happened back in the early 90s when they did the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire novels.
Yes.
They did, Star Wars did like their Dark Horse did their Dark Empire miniseries. I mean, that was huge because that was the first new kind of Star Wars content in like over a decade.
That's what I said. We didn't get anything. It was like we were thirsty for it when it came. I don't know. I don't see, the one thing I didn't get into was the games, but they seem epic. I've seen some of the commercial trailers for them. I'm like, I almost want to play it just because it looks like a regular story. But I'm assuming they were. Assuming, right? I guess they were. I don't know.
I haven't gotten into a lot of the games, but some of my nephews have. I think it's Star Wars Battlefront, and I've played it with them a few times, and it is awesome. My thing is that I don't have an Xbox or or one of the newer PlayStations anymore. All I got is my Nintendo Switch. So
No play. You don't have a PlayStation 5, John. You don't have one. No. He's like, no.
No. That MSG money,
I'm doing
man.
I'm doing my Mario Kart, my Mario Party, and my Zelda.
So, John, side note, folks, a side note, John. So on TikTok, there's a new Mario Kart challenge. I've just seen it, where they're dancing to the soundtrack.
I love it.
It's Flobo said the soundtrack's really good. I just makes me laugh. I had no idea. But they're doing a Mario Kart dance challenge.
Fantastic.
There's another one too where you have to play shirtless. So go ahead and put that up there, John.
John, if you feel like it, we'll support it if you need to.
I'll do some shirtless dancing for you.
Set to maybe Star Wars theme. I don't know. I said John Williams music, things like that.
I'll play the same song that was playing when Leia was wearing her slave costume.
No, that's for me when I wear my two-piece bikini. Like, come on, no, that's not. I'm like, that's what I do. My number exactly for two. Oh my God. But no, so far I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing this short episode. Apparently, everybody's like, "Yeah, it's so short." I'm like, well, "How long was it? Like, what, 10 minutes? Or even how long was it?"
It's 27 minutes without credits.
Without credits. Yeah.
I said it's quick. That's quick. And we're halfway through. We are halfway through the season. Yeah, we're halfway through. So yeah.
Yeah, 4 episodes out of 8 so far.
So, but anyway, so no, I enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to looking at episode. So again, at the next week, I'll comment on episode 4 next week when we go on. So I hope to watch episode 5. I put out there no family drama on the next couple of days. I can't have nothing. Next Tuesday or Wednesday. Can't have any family drama.
Well, what better cliffhanger to end it on than James Lott's family potential strife? Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to thanks for joining us for another Acolyte after show, breaking down every episode of Acolyte this season there on Disney Plus. If you want to follow any of us, even after the show's over, whether you've listened to us or watched our handsome faces, John Dunphy, where can they find you?
You can find me at jdun89 on Twitter and Instagram. And if you're into reality TV shows,
I am. Do tell, please.
You can find us at Strat Chat Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We talk about Big Brother, the Challenge. Actually, the Challenge All Stars 4 finale dropped today.
Oh.
And Survivor as well. Obviously, you can tell behind me. I enjoy Survivor.
Very nice. Have you watched any of the Traitors, various Traitors season 2s?
I have watched every season of the Traitors in every country.
Nice. I only discovered Traitors New Zealand last night.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and watched the first episode of that last night. Digging that host. He's so cranky. It's great.
Yeah. The Traitors is a great show, great hosts across the board. I'm annoyed they moved away from the regular people being on it because now it's all just reality TV stars. The first time they did it in the US, it was half regular people, half reality TV celebs, and now since then they've moved to just reality TV people. So I'm annoyed that I can't apply to be on the show.
I have to shout out my chocolate twin, Tony Moore. Go to Lounging with Tony on Instagram. He covers Traitors season 1 and season 2. He was just there at the Grove with them with Trishelle and Parvati. He's friends with them now.
Oh,
he
wow.
Loves Traitors. That's his show. Alan Cummings is his friend now. He loves the show. So Lounging with Tony because he loves Traitors. That's his US Traitors US.
Yeah.
Question as we wrap up, though, speaking of Traitors New Zealand, in the very first episode, before the even game was started, the host says, "Hey, guess what? If you want, right over there up the top of that hill, there's $10,000. If you want, you could just race up there, and if you would you guys take it? Or would you want to stay and try to win the game?"
I'm lazy. I'll take $10,000 and just be like, "See, folks, bye. See you later."
I would stay. Get more TV time.
How am I going to launch myself as a reality celebrity unless I stick around?
I want to be known for the person who took that money and said, "Screw it." You make history either way. You take it or don't take it. You make history either way.
Yeah, only one person went for it, and he took it, and adios.
Yep. I'll be like, bye, see you guys later. After taxes, I'll get like 5,000. I'll take 5,000 for something. Shit, why not?
Yeah.
That guy's driving away. It's like that was the easiest money I ever made.
I mentioned Australia in the chat. Yes, so folks in chat, and I'll do my intro, my outro. So Robbie and everybody in chat, I am covering The Neighbors after show, which is an Australian soap opera they're showing in America on Amazon Freevee. I'm enjoying it very much. Ramsey Street, they're from Melbourne. I love it. Of course, I know Dan Fugel, who plays E.G. Demira on Days of Our Lives. Robbie, I have an interview with them from the Emmys 2 years ago on my channel, so you can check out. I was a fan of him since Spartacus. That's something else. Woo, you saw all of Dan Fugel's on that show. That's something else. But he's hot in person too. So I know who he is. And I love my Australian New Zealanders. I am James Lott Jr. and this is my network, bitches. No. And I do all kind of stuff. So just follow me. We're all James Lott Jr. Sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. And we have other Star Wars shows. Any Star Wars series, just type in that name and Aftershow after it. And there's Full Voice in the chat. I Full Voice in the chat. And he's doing new content every day, Frank.
Well, thank you, Flobo, for recommitting to your brand. I don't want to be in a world where Flobo is not creating new content daily.
Daily
Yes.
flow.
Not let me be in that world.
Yes, folks, I know my bread refrigerator video has gone viral again. So thank you all the news to people in here who are like saying bread in the chat. They're saying bread. That's all they're saying. John just said bread. So I did record a new video after 3 years updating the bread video. So it's out now on TikTok.
Ooh.
Everywhere you find videos. Frank, where can they find your delicious ass?
Find me in all social media there. Happy Go Jackie. There you go. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Acolyte After Show. We'll be back here next Wednesday. Kim should be here as well. James should join us for the full episode instead of just this little delicious treat we got at the end of this one. And you will catch James and I on Sunday, if you are so inclined, on the GH Mini Spotlight with some special guest stars as well.
Yes, we have some guest stars, Frank.
Woo!
Sunday shift. They're fans of ours.
Oh, well, of yours.
Ours.
No, they've already blocked me on social media. That's okay.
Not yet.
Until next Wednesday, folks, may the force be with you always.
This is the way.